gentlemen, boys and girls, although we are going to start by doing a piece, I'm first going to introduce this man before he gets on up here. Ladies and gentlemen, my only UK connection for my features here at the Cafe Gallery this year. Give it up for Mr. Oz Hardwick. You know, I know that they were working, Robin and you were working on writings together, whereas I was like, hey, do you want to read something of mine or read something of yours? We'll set it to music, and we didn't really edit each other's writing. We just like kind of quasi-perform it with each other. So I asked him, although this is not a piece that either one of us had read, I happen to have music from a past CD from the Ha Man of South Africa for the piece called All These Reminders, and I was asking him if he would like to join me for the reading of it. So you're going to hear music from the Ha Man of South Africa in the background, but this is a piece with Oz and I called All These Reminders. Look, over here, in my living room, you left an empty bottle of beer on the end table. The cap, too. And come here, follow me, over here, in the kitchen. Look here, you see, you left some of your food in the pantry. A box of spaghetti, some canned tomatoes. And come here, in the bathroom. I know you probably won't notice this, but here, this towel, it smells like you. It smells like your shaving cream. Why did you have to go? Why'd you have to leave me all these reminders?
Okay. Look here, the remote for the television is on the arm of the chair where you always leave it. And the cocktail table, it's pushed forward on one side because you always rest your feet on it. Everywhere I look around me, I see something that you affected. I look in the kitchen, I look in the dining room, I look in the mirror.
Why did you have to do this to me? Why couldn't you have made a clean break?
There's still some of your messages scribbled on scraps of paper next to the phone in the kitchen. And look, the pillow on the couch is bunched up because you could never get comfortable with it. And over here, the phone books are out on the kitchen counter. You never put them away, and here they are, still sitting out. I'll have to put them back in the cabinet. And look here, why do I still have all of your love letters stuffed into a drawer in my desk?
When you left me, why did you have to leave me all these reminders? Shoo, trying to set up stuff with music, but no, don't clap at me, clap at you. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for a phenomenal feature from Mr. Oz Hardwick. Come on!
I'll stick with this one because it's in front of me. Although I can do both. Look.
Stereo.
Absolutely, yeah. I've heard since I got here that it's a bit cold. I don't think so. I've come from the north of England where it's a damn sight colder. It's one of the stereotypes of the British that we talk about the weather. This is a poem about the weather. Some of the earliest writing in the English language is about the weather, but it's about other things as well. So's this poem. It's called Stormcrow. The river rose again last night, darkness taking our first road. Now no wheels sound in the pallid light. The stranger came, his face showed no ire nor compassion, no love nor hate. Tapping at windows he passed down the street, a shade in the lane, a ghost at the gate, darting with the eddying flood at his feet, like a holy fool or mocking mummer. Some saw him lurch and laugh at the sky, awash with the relics of departing summer. all felt a chill as his shadow splashed by along the line where the banks had burst, towards the church with the twisted spire, where some say he laughed, but some say he cursed. Morning discovered a tangled mire, a muddy island, the river spread like disease throughout the village lanes. There's whisper of the stranger, and how he fled before the sun, and will he come again? Well, some say aye and some say nay. But was that a fleeting figure or a flicker of the light? And was that low laughter or just the breeze bearing rain? The river will rise again tonight. It's very lovely to be back, well sort of back because we're somewhere else last time I was here, but it's sort of back in, as far as I'm concerned. And who'd have thought it? Here I am reading some poems on a long way from where I came from, and one of the things that I think is kind of important is never to give up on things. I think one of the things about growing up is to say, grow up, give away all that, you know, and actually really sticking with it is the way to go. This is called Birdman. My fledgling ambition scoured my father's shed for things that spin, regardless of true function. A brace and bit, a discarded armature, a clock, arcane devices I still can't name today, all magpie gathered, spread beneath the sun. Clear on concrete, I chalked my childish wings, laid out my engines like the Wright brothers' tarot pack, predicting sky and the earth spread out below. Eyes closed, breath held, I sat still, an earthbound child, small under heaven. Failed but undaunted by the fickle magic of machines, whipped up by wings of comics and Saturday pictures, I saw where I'd gone wrong. Wood and steel, far too heavy. They only drag you down. I must develop my superhuman powers. I had this plan, this system, a regular routine. With dedication I knew I couldn't fail. Down the hill with flapping arms outstretched and run slow, step high, pause and down. The airborne moment never maintained. It's funny I remember because all that flew were years. But lately I found myself with a broken umbrella held to the wind with only my feet on the ground, as my heart soared with the swirling black rags, a birdman by birth, still throwing myself at clouds. It's a great metaphor, flight, and of course I flew in today, and it was, I love flying, and I know I shouldn't because of all the reasons why we shouldn't fly. But it still is miraculous to me.
Flying is awesome.
It's awesome, and it kills things. And I've been coming over here for, this is my 11th May in a row, and the past 3 years you notice the coastline of Iceland changing. It's very worrying.
Really?
Yeah, you do. You look down and it's very different than it was 5 years ago. That poem it wasn't about, I mean it's about the metaphor of flight, because there's things that you want to do when you're a child that you're told to give up and then you don't, and if you really don't, actually you find that they come together all these years later. Sometime in the next couple of months I've got these 2 tracks out on albums, and it's brilliant because I wanted to be a pop star when I was 12. 40 years on, you know.
You are.
So, well, not exactly, but it's you know, I played at the biggest festival in Europe last year. and I've got a couple of tracks coming out, and it's great. So I'm going to do a couple of things about, because we all, I like to think we all have extremes, because that's what makes us human. And it could be chocolate, but we all have our passions and addictions, and at least one of mine has been more beneficial than harmful, although I won't talk about the others. And that's music. And I earlier on today I was down in Reckless Records flicking through the racks. This is called Vinyl Junkie, and I do this because I know it's a podcast and it'll be on YouTube and stuff. And so this is a dedication to people 8 hours flight away. And this is, I've got this T-shirt and I wore it specially. It's the first time I've worn it. It said Woods Rock Club, and Woods Rock Club is a place I went to in the 70s when I was in my teens, and I saw great bands there. And it's to anyone that was there, particularly Age and Ian and Ken as well, with whom I made my first horrible electric noises on guitars. And this is for them and for everyone that from back in my hometown of Plymouth in Britain. It's called Vinyl Junkie. It begins like this. A ritual opening, thumbnail slit cellophane, chemical tang, inhale deep, a fuzzy static buzz, bristling arm hairs, tensing the pulse to pump a little faster. Always like the first time, mouth dry as the soft unsleeving, naked lines dizzying to catch the track of expectation. The needle bites, a soft, sharp caress that stops time to muted white noise, dull tom-tom heartbeats, the ice crack of not quite silence, scratching awake the kundalini serpent that swallows 180 grams, black and pure, straight to the synapse. Here it comes. In an experimental frame of mind, due to having been up for more hours than I can count, we had a little run through earlier on with this. We're going to have a go at something. Normally, we'll do a bit of timing on this one. Normally I do this with, I'm in 3 bands at the moment, and one of them, we do this thing as a bit of an introduction to a bit of Elvis, but we're going to just try it with Gary playing a bit of piano at the back and see how we get on. Oh, that was a bit of piano at the back there. We do this quite often at the start of a set. But what we do is we get people to get the beat going. So if you can just go like this. About that, that's about the key. We want a little sort of vampy knee on this. And it's possibly going to be a bit of a, I don't know where it's going to happen at the end, because normally we go into an Elvis number at the end. But we'll see what happens. Because I grew up in the southwest of England, which is a long way from the heartbeat of rock music, which I grew to love quite early on. As I lay awake at nights when I should have been asleep, within those days, a radio the size of a house clamped to my ear with dials glowing in the dark, and magic that came across the Atlantic from places like Chicago. It's a little bit of jazz, it's a little bit of blues, it's a lot of being young and having nothing to use. It's a little bit of crazy, a whole lot of wild. It's who gives a damn with a whole lot of style. Up from Mississippi and it's up from the street, with the snake oil slickers and the heat of the beat, where the black man's rhythm meets the white man's gold. It says everybody boogie before we get old. It's a spoonful of gospel with the devil on its tail. It's drinking and fighting that'll land you up in jail. It's the dance hall where you can't tell the girls from the boys. A whole lot of love and a cellar full of noise. shuffle, the rattle of the bones, the smooth operator and the chain gang moan, the song and dance man with the three-chord trick, the kid in the mirror who's laying down the licks. I can still hear the clicking, that's good. It's the rattle of the hum where the mind gets hazy and the boys turn bad and the girls go crazy. So you dress like a star as you sign on the dole and you pick a cheap guitar and then some poems, and before I came on no one told me how long to go on for, so when I notice no one's left at all, I'll stop. Now we've gone to music, because you know, I grew up with America as this mythical place where like brilliant music came from and stuff like that, and I didn't actually come here until, you know, into my 40s, and I was just getting all this second hand. This is a poem called When Dylan Found God. When Dylan found God, I was drinking coffee, my teens ending, an Italian girlfriend smoking black cigarettes, watching snow gather on dirty windows. I was listening to a cheap radio, not thinking about darkness, not thinking about light, not thinking at all, except perhaps of tricks to perfect my casual scuffed insouciance. I was playing lazy pool in basements, dropping coins in jukeboxes, reading Tarantula on the road and the full curriculum of outsider chic in used paperbacks. I wasn't going to change my way of thinking or serve anybody. I was still looking for that freewheeling New York winter he'd left long ago in search of new meanings. So when I heard his slow train coming, I watched from the side of the track, nodded, ordered one more cup of coffee as he passed, and once again left me behind. If I may, I'll do another Bob Dylan poem. This comes from, I mentioned that I'm in a couple of bands. The thing that I normally do that piece that we just did with is a three-piece, and we've done, it came out of a project we did, doing sort of Bob Dylan based poems and songs and so on, and a few of Dylan's things as well. This is something else I wrote for that project called The Thing About Newport, which, as I'm sure I don't have to tell people, was the place where it just went absolutely crazy with Dylan and his band going electric, and there's all the sort of horror stories about what happened there and so on. And the thing that really interested me was this idea of Pete Seeger with an axe going to cut through the electric cable to stop it. And it's like, what on earth's going on there? This is called The Thing About Newport. Eyewitnesses disagree, protagonists are no better, each contradicting each other and over time themselves. Yes, there was booing, slow hand claps, archive film captured it all as Skinny Bob and his ragged band smashed the night into black and white electric rainbows. Maybe the audience hated it, maybe the anger, as some claim, was frustration at not being able to hear the words. This is something the film can't show, and those who were there tell different stories. Not that I care. No, for me, the anecdote I want confirmed is, did Seeger really have that axe? Was Pacifist Pete of the angry calm of the bullet words and loaded guitar, who could pick off targets at 1,000 miles without spilling a drop of blood, really so riled by a few decibels that he ran amok, fiery-eyed, his wiry frame rigid with passion, axe raised in backstage chaos? Well, eyewitnesses disagree, protagonists are no better, each contradicting each other and, over time, themselves. But I like to think, yes, the scrawny kid with the shiny guitar took the music, shook it loose, and proved just how much it matters. I'm going to do probably about 3 more. It's tempting after doing things about music to say what I do when I'm in a band, and it's like, come down the front here. Janet was saying no one ever sits in these seats. Can we just say, who's going to sit there? Hooray. Yeah, good stuff, good. I'm so glad to see you down the front. Because I'm getting old and I have the close-up glasses. I don't know if anyone's beyond that bit there, you know. So it's like, excellent. Good. Throw tomatoes if you like, or tomatoes. But if they're in tins, please take them out first. This is a slightly sort of Italianate poem. I was in Menton on the France-Italy border a couple of years ago, and some wonderful paintings by Jean Cocteau there. The sort of female protagonist, he lived there in the early 60s, is essentially based on Brigitte Bardot, and it's these wonderful paintings, and I wrote loads of poems about them. And this is called The Fisherman's Daughter, from these paintings in which she's a, sort of this young, fresh-faced, immensely seductive woman, and there's this sort of fisherman also in the paintings. It's bright colours, beautiful stuff. It's called The Fisherman's Daughter. In this moment of kissing, the sounds of sea return, those voices of dreams whispering your life, always filling even the most profound silence, louder than your heart when you ran across sand, rushing headlong into this still moment of touching lips. Breath holds your tender years of innocence, passionately experienced close to the margins of waves, to the flood and flow of your growing, swimming towards this new country, rising in sheer, dizzying beauty, filling horizons with inviting, impenetrable shores. Ships have been lost here, formless fragments found sometimes days, sometimes months later, sad and useless, trapped in sand, pointing nowhere. And always the sound of the sea, dispassionate, carrying the cargo of life and death and something between. You remember voices crying in nights when winds battered windows, so loud you almost believed the sea had left its home, crossed the sand and come to take you, fling you with the flotsam which would choke the storm drains if ever morning came. Then almost silence, as if everything but the sea stopped to mourn the lost strangers who sailed from nowhere to wake you in fear and die in the dark unknown. But now, in this moment of kissing, it all returns, though you want so much to focus on just this, on this first kiss, this clumsy hand that trembles with your trembling, with your dry lips tasting the salt that permeates everything, the sea's taste, the taste of all your life's calms and storms, rocking and heaving you blindly closer, closer to this impossible landing, this terrifying embrace of ground and sky, half haven, half wreck, and all the time the sound of the sea, pleading, imploring, soothing, threatening, crying, seducing, screaming, exulting as you lean back, drowning in this moment of kissing. And I suppose two more. The two more are, one, the last poem in this, which is my latest collection, and I do mention this in a spirit of optimism, that someone might go, I wish I could read more of those. Can you sell me one of your books? So it's from this one. This is called The Seafarer's Return. I mentioned earlier on about some of the first poems in the English language written somewhere around the 8th or 9th century in a manuscript from towards the end of the first millennium. Allegorically talk about the weather, very much, you know, it's this British thing that we talk about the weather. And one of these poems from a thing called the Exeter Book, which is a manuscript we can date to it being bequeathed to Exeter Cathedral in about 1070. It's called The Seafarer, and it's a poem that's very Christian, uses the weather allegorically about struggling against something, but being sort of forced within you to do this. And I think it's something a bit like wherever we find inspiration, whatever inspiration may be, we go somewhere and we come back and hope what we've come back with is beautiful. This is called The Seafarer's Return. My salt-caked sea chest is heavy with shells and stones gathered from empty beaches. Rough guides never mention such places. Dangerous tides deter all but the most determined. I have travelled alone, gleaning beauty from shores where seas had thrown silence upon silence upon silence, where forever hides in the glimmer of spray, where no gull glides on dead air and secrets remain unknown. At your door I stand, tongue-tied in weed, footsore with blistered palms and a distant stare, my shoulders stooped with the weight of my journey. I need more than I can ask, but first share these far-gathered gifts of shell and stone, whose value resides in the grace of you alone. I'd like to finish with this one, which is quite new, and because I had the pleasure of coming through immigration today, which gave me plenty of time to stand around and read a book in a queue. I can't help thinking that if people are so paranoid about these things, the war on terror, terror won. This is about, well, it's about all sorts of things, but one of them being when I went through Russia by mistake. It's called Passing Over. And when you reach the border that isn't on the map, get dressed as soon as the labourers break into your compartment. And when they start removing the floor panels, try not to meet their eyes. And when the smart man asks you to fill in forms in languages you do not recognise, as a young boy in a crisp uniform crawls through the luggage racks, try not to dwell on the way you skimmed the small print in guidebooks you should have read more closely. And though when they lead you silently onto the foggy sidings at 3 a.m, you will inevitably recall cheap paperbacks and grainy movies, try instead to consider what you truly believe and whether or not it is what they also believe. And most importantly, when the elderly woman with too much makeup, sitting stiffly in the overlit, overheated hut, the only person who smiles and speaks your native tongue, makes her simple demand, make sure you are carrying exactly what she asks for. Thank you.
I don't think that was loud enough, ladies and gentlemen. Please, one more time. And I should do this because when we have the time I ask, does anybody have any questions for our feature this evening? Strange. You could ask things like, so, what is your term for umbrellas over there in the UK? Or so, whatever you'd like.
I'll ask the question Janet tried to ask earlier. What was the biggest festival in Europe that you mentioned?
Oh, Glastonbury.
You were in Glastonbury! Sorry.
All right.
I've done it 3 times, man.
That's so awesome.
First as a poet, and then the other 2 times as a poet and as half of a folk duo. And it's cool. And also, can I just bore you with an anecdote for a second?
I would.
When I was 14, I saved up my pocket money to buy this album called Glastonbury Fair that was released to try and cover the costs that had been lost on the first ever Glastonbury Festival in '71. This album came out in 1972, and in 1974 I could afford it at the princely sum of, trying to work out, it's about $4.50. And it was a lot of money in those days for someone that's a child. And I bought this because there are a couple of tracks by a band called Hardwick who I loved passionately and still do. And on this, and I bought this and I owned it, and they had these, it was a book in it of pictures of this festival. It looked like the world I wanted to be in. 35 years later, I'm doing a thing with my acoustic duo and did a few poems in a slot, and an original member of Hardwick said to me, "We're doing a set in a bit, do you want to come and read some poems with us?" Yes!
That is awesome. I'm so officially freaked and embarrassed because you actually photographed a poetry billboard thing with a ton of mud one year at Glastonbury Festival, and that was, I believe, the March cover of CC&D magazine. It said poetry and all this mud, and that was something from him. So, oftentimes, because I don't get that much poetry from you, you do send artwork. You happen to have artwork in the May issue. I'm like, let's just see. And it's Tune in, Count the Money by Hardwick, and that one appears on page 76. So, yeah, I've got his money. I've got his artwork that would appear on page. I'm like, I have to pull it up. I've got, his artwork. It's in color in the web version. But, any more questions? Anyone? Ladies, gentlemen, anybody?
Where else can we see you perform?
England.
Are you anywhere here? Or?
No, I'm not. I'm here and then moving on tomorrow and then back for like Sunday in a week's time and back again. And I'd just like to point out that probably about, what time are we on? I'm trying to work out the time. It's a couple of hours ago. The poetry evening that I started up about 8 years ago just finished in York, so a bit of an overlap there. So
Wow. So where do you and your wife live in York?
we live in York, yes, which is halfway between. As I was trying to explain on sort of local knowledge of Britain, is halfway between London and Edinburgh.
Can you is there a train to go from London to York?
Oh yes, York is, and no, I won't give you the boring lecture about it, but it was the biggest railway station in the world because it was the centre of British railways at the time when railways were coming out of there.
You're talking about York?
And then when New York was the first place to take the title away from them. But it's the centre of the rail, so it goes, Edinburgh, London, you name it,
We ever do this?
Train to Edinburgh, that's cool.
Well, then we're talking,
Sorry, just thinking.
maybe,
We're working on the plans.
we're working on plans maybe to do London or England and Ireland and come visit.
Just very, very close to York. You can go about 30 miles from the Leeds Bradford Airport, nip over on the plane to Ireland, marvellous.
So we're just kind of...
I'd recommend it.
I'd recommend it, so we don't have to talk about all this.
I'll be the janitor here and say, are there any other questions, any other thoughts, anything about his book?
This looks really beautiful in reading glasses. It just glows
There's
beautifully.
this beautiful glow with all the Christmas lights, right?
Nothing's in focus beyond the microphone, but then it's just exquisite beyond that. It's sort of impressionistic, sort of. Yeah.
Well, that's something I found that was amazing about this image of Chicago behind us, because, well, it's like, oh, it's just an image, but when you see it on film, it's just amazing to actually see it.
It does look cool.
Because have you actually seen the video for it with people?
Yes.
And there's a difference between seeing it here and seeing it on the video.
Yes.
So you can just tell them while I was, there's the water going right behind me, but because they can't know the
So
difference.
I would point that out. Yes, in England I have watched this very place. I've seen people doing stuff here.
And it looks quite
It does look good. Yeah, it's good.
So, are there any other questions? I really love the music. That's so awesome. Anybody? Bueller, anybody? No? All right, then give it up one more time for us, Hardwick. Come on.
Thank you very much.
Have your beer. Enjoy your American beer. Yay! And I would tell you guys, in 2 weeks, on the 23rd of May, we happen to have our lovely and charming and gorgeous sidekick. Oh, there it goes, picking up Bob Rashkow for our feature in just 2 weeks. And then, in the beginning of June, on June 6th, we've got a duo, because it's a belated birthday for Buddha 309, but it's also going to be for a birthday celebration for Esteban Colon. They are going to be here together for a feature on June 6th. That'll be so awesome. And then Jim Davis in June, and June 25th, and there are people in July as well. But I'm not going to tell you about all that stuff, because you can always go to www.chaoticguides.org/thecafe to learn anything about the schedule, or if you want to bug me any old time. You know my name, Janet Kuipers. And thank each and every one of you. Once again, thank you all so very much.